Hello, welcome to Basics, an introductory bass course. I'm your instructor, Logan, and this is chapter 1. And even though I have my bass on me, you're not going to need to play anything today or during this chapter if you choose to do it daily or whatever. So you don't really need it, but you're welcome to pluck and strum along with a guitar or a bass if you want to. So bass guitar, as like this, the electric one as we know it today, started out as an upright one, like this one over here, but this was mostly used in chamber music, sometimes the bow, and then it slowly got brought into America and then used with jazz and blues in like quartets and smaller use bands, not super big orchestras. It never was really used in that. And it's not fretted, so I'm sorry, but I don't know how to play it because I only know how to play it with frets, which I'll go on to explain later in the video, where it's like this, and there's bars between each note. Whereas this one's not fretted, there's not any bars in between the notes, so I don't know where the notes are in that thing. And eventually, later in life, I would like to learn how to play it, but I don't know how to do that now. However, this is something you might be able to hear on one of those instruments if you ever were to play it at the time that it was used in jazz and blues and stuff like that in the America. So you hear lots of bluesy stuff like that. Now the bass is made up of a few different parts, like the instrument itself. So it's the body, the neck, and the head. And up here is the head. So the head has tuning pegs on it, which are these, which you use to change the pitches of the strings by increasing or decreasing the length of it. So you can do that to change the tuning, which we're going to do. I'm going to teach you drop D later on in the thing where you change this, which is the lowest string E, and you tune it down to G, and you'll see how that sounds later. And then that's the head. And up here, right, this bar that's holding the strings up above the fretboard, which is the neck, is the nut. And then it goes down the neck where there's frets, which are these metal bars. And when you play, you're supposed to do the exact opposite of what I just did and not put your fingers on the bar, but in between them, because that's where the note is. For example, this is E, a little out of tune because it just messes with the tuning peg, and then G. Then down here, on the lower spot of the bass, is the body, and in the body you have pickups, which are these, which pick up the signal from the string wavering and convert it into electricity somewhere in here. I don't know how that works, and then it goes through your thing to your amp, which is behind me. Over here are just knobs that change this one's volume. This one's makes it punchier. This one makes it more bassy, which doesn't really make any sense because it's a bass guitar, and this one changes the tone of it, I think. I still haven't really figured out what those do. But bass exists in all forms of music, not necessarily in the bass guitar itself, but there's always lower notes to what other pieces are playing. It's just a fact of music, and there's not a whole lot of those. But the electric bass guitar, which you're going to learn in this course, is very prominent in like blues and jazz derived genres. Like, of course, like I said before, music doesn't have many facts in it. It has a lot of suggestions, and it shouldn't, I think, ever really have like a set of rules set to it. It should only have suggestions that people go off of to create their own artistic style when it comes to music. So not all jazz-derived songs, albums, bands, genres at all have bass featured prominently, but a lot of them do, and jazz and blues have spawned tons of music into modern day. And like a quick chart, I guess, would be that blues in America gave way to rockabilly, like Elvis and Buddy Holly, which inspired the Brit Invasion, which was Beatles and Rolling Stones, which then caused pop rock to show up, which was like Elton John and Fleetwood Mac, which was adapted kinda into hard rock, which is like Led Zeppelin, Van Halen. Those are like early metal hard rock, stuff like that, and then pop rock was rebutted by heavy metal, which is Black Sabbath and Dio. And then those last two genres, hard rock and heavy metal, kind of inspired like two of my favorite bassists of all time, who I think are the greatest bassists of all time, Chris Novoselic and Cliff Burton of Nirvana and Metallica, respectively. We will learn riffs from those bands, from those genres, and learn about those two bassist techniques in this course. So that's all of chapter 1. I hope you learned something about the history of bass guitar and how the body is structured. Switch over to chapter 2 and still won't need to play, but you'll learn a little bit more about the background of bass and why we have to play it in our bands.